Hi everyone, it's Eliana. This week I had the pleasure to work with Neat and Tangled, and we collaborated, and this is my contribution. This is a bonus video at the end of our week together. I'm taking my original MISTI and I'm stamping all of the clouds that are in the Neat and Tangled cloud stamp set, and I'm stamping them onto repositionable label. These are just from the office supply store. They're inexpensive and you could use them as a mask. And so after I stamp out 2 sets of these clouds, I'm going to take my scissors and just trim around the clouds to create my masks. Once I trim those out, I'm going to take the cloud from the Just Thinking of You stamp set. It's just a mini stamp set, and I'm using my mini MISTI. This is the first video I've made with my mini MISTI. This is a prototype that I made, and so you'll see that the hinges will be different on the ones that actually come out to you. I'm just stamping the big cloud with some soft stone ink from paper tray, and now I'm going to be stamping the same stamp with black ink to create my mask. I do create several of these masks because I'm going to be making several cards. Now I'm taking my mask and I'm going to cover the cloud that's on my card front. I am using the original MISTI because I only have one mini and I don't really want to move that big cloud from it, so I'm working with my original. I'm just stamping with fog ink from Simon Says Stamp, and it's the exact same color as the paper tray ink soft stone. You really can't tell the difference. My plan is to build a background using all the cloud stamps and then have the large cloud in the foreground for my sentiment. I'm masking the cloud that I've already stamped, and now I'm adding the other clouds to my MISTI, and then I'll just pick those up with the lid. At first I was interchanging between the soft stone and the fog ink, but then after a while I figured out that they're both exactly the same and it really didn't matter which ink I was using. And so it just appears to be a solid, it looks like it's a solid background stamp in the background. And because I am stamping off the edge of the card, I do have my cardstock moved over a little bit. I have the magnet holding it down, but there's also the sticky adhesive from the masks that are keeping my cardstock from moving. So if I need to restamp, my cardstock is not going to move. Now I've completed my background and I've removed all my masks. Now I'm going to go back and use my mini MISTI again. Now I'm placing my cardstock back into the mini MISTI. I'm going to use my embossing powder tool to get rid of any static or oils from my fingers or the adhesive from the masking paper. And I'm stamping my cloud with the Delicata Silver ink, and it's a sticky ink, so the embossing powder will stick to it. And I'm just using some simple silver powder from Recollections. It's the generic kind from Michaels. I've had this for a long time and it's still pretty full. I am making 3 cards at one time, but I'm only showing you one card. Now I'm melting the embossing powder with my heat tool. And I do go and add the sentiment to it, but I didn't like how it turned out, so I'll go back to that part later and how I fix that. I'm taking some soft stone cardstock from Paper Tray ink, and I'm going to do some tone-on-tone stamping. And I'm using the diagonal stripes background from Simon Says Stamp. At first I wanted just to use the Versamark, but it wasn't showing up as much as I wanted it to, and so I go back and I just add some clear embossing powder. And you'll notice that this is one of my very first MISTIs. I can tell because of the script that's on the underneath the plexiglass on that grid, because it's my handwriting. So if you have one that has that strange script on it, then you know it's one of my very first ones that I ever made. So I've stamped my background, and I stamped it a couple times with Versamark, and I'm wiping off my stamp. Now the Versamark ink is very, very sticky, and you want to make sure that it's clean and you get it off your MISTI because it will get dry, and then it gets really hard to get that Versamark off, and you'll end up having to use the Novus 2, which is a little paste, and you'll have to work the paste and scrub off the Versamark. So be sure you clean it right away. Now I'm just taking my clear embossing powder and I am melting it with my embossing tool. And that's going to create a subtle background. It's not going to be too busy, but it just adds a little bit of detail to my card just because I just thought it was just so plain by itself when I put the panel. I did trim down the panel and I used the stitch rectangles from Simon Says Stamp. Typically I always go for my Lawn Fawn ones, but the Simon Says Stamp actually goes pretty well with the Lawn Fawn. It's kind of got the in-between size rectangle, and so it gives you just enough of the background cardstock showing underneath. Now I've re-stamped my little cloud. This is part where I didn't show. I stamped my sentiment on the cloud, but I really didn't like the way it turned out. It was kind of a little off, and after I looked at it, I didn't really like it. So I went ahead and re-stamped everything, embossed it, and then I centered the sentiment onto it. And so I'm just going to use a little bit of adhesive, and it's going to add just a tiny bit of dimension to that piece. And I really did like how that turned out better. And because there's embossing underneath, it kind of looks really cool when you tilt it up to the side. And now I'm using my crystal katana. It's kind of like a pickup stick. It's really cool because it lets go of your crystals, of your embellishment. And I actually got to meet the lady that invented it at CHA, and she also had pink hair, so we got along really great. And I did take a picture with her, and so I was super, super excited. So as soon as I got home, I bought one of these, and it was pretty nice to meet her. I was very impressed with her. Thanks so much for watching, and so glad you were able to join us for this collaboration with Neat and Tangled. Have a great day.